he descended to that level to redeem you from the darkness, to redeem you from the chaos, so that you might experience new order, the light of salvation, and to become a new creation. In English, Jehova Elohim. In Hebrew, Adonai Elohim. But the first name of God in the Bible is the Hebrew word Elohim. Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. And Elohim, literally, we understand in Hebrew that to mean that name of God to underscore God as maker and the master of the universe. He's the all-powerful, omnipotent one. Elohim is God who creates the physical world, and he's God who is revealed in and through nature. And the name Elohim is associated with God and his attribute of justice. If you know me, you know that I love to talk about the connection between letters and numbers. Hebrew is alphanumeric. That means letters are written with numbers. So every Hebrew word has a numerical value because you write numbers with letters, okay? And so the numerical value of Elohim is 86 in Hebrew. And the reason why that is significant is because 86 is also the numerical value of the Hebrew word hateva, and hateva means nature, right? So Elohim equals 86 and hateva equals 86 because it was Elohim, Genesis chapter 1, his name we read, creates the heavens and the earth. So 86 Elohim creates nature 86. But what it really shows is Elohim 86 has complete power over the creation 86. But of course there's more, because I believe part of the connections between nature equaling 86 and God's name Elohim equals 86 is that the power of God is concealed in creation. It's kind of like Yeshua, John 1:14, the word that became flesh and dwelt among us. When people looked at Yeshua, they never would have guessed this was the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the glory of God, the Creator made manifest in a human body. His deity and his divinity, his glory was hidden behind the veil of his flesh. And it wasn't until, for example, the transfiguration when he pulled away the veil of his flesh and was like looking into the Holy of Holies, and the Shekhinah, the glory of God, was made manifest. Well, in the same way, God's divinity and glory was hidden and concealed in the body of Yeshua in the same way, okay? God is concealed within creation. When you look at creation, you don't see God immediately, but we know that if you ponder where did it all come from and you look at the majesty and the size of it, right? We understand then that the heavens declare the glory of God. So it's just amazing how there's all these deeper things hidden in the words and the letters, in the numbers. So if Elohim is God as master, God as judge, God in his justice, then Yud He Vav He, or Jehovah as Christians say, or Adonai as Jews say, is God as covenant keeper. It's God as redeemer. It's God's attribute of rachamim, of mercy and compassion. And that's so significant that it's Adonai Elohim who created the heavens and the earth. Because initially God only wanted to create the world by his attribute of strict justice, meaning things would be measure for measure. When you're good, you're blessed. When you disobey God's word and his will, then all of a sudden, boom, there would be a consequence for that. Kind of cause and effect, reaping and sowing would kind of happen instantaneously. But God knew that we would not be able to stand if he kept a record of our wrongs. And so if he dealt with us only according to his strict justice. So God tempered his justice with his compassion, which is his name, Yud He Vav He, Adonai, Jehovah, Elohim, the Tetragrammatron. And so there's the balance between these two names where God allows even his mercy and his kindness to even overwhelm his strict justice. And There's a beautiful story of King David that we tell in the book, how there was a wealthy man who came to King David to judge a case between him and a poor individual. And David knew that the wealthy man was right in his case. But if he ruled in favor of the wealthy man, he would take the one little lamb that this poor man had. So on the one hand, it wasn't right of this wealthy man to do this to this poor man, but according to the letter of the law, he was right to demand that lamb from this poor man, but the poor man would have been left with nothing. So what did David do? David ruled in the favor of the rich man, but paid the fine himself, balancing justice with mercy and kindness. And ultimately, we see this in the person of Yeshua. As he dies there on the cross, as he dies there on that tree, God satisfies justice. The one who sins has to die, right? And every one of us falls short of the glory of God. So God has to judge sin. But that's the just side of God, right? That's the strict judgment side of God. But in his mercy, he decides to come in human flesh and on the cross, take that judgment, pay that fine for you and I, just like David did, so we don't have to experience the justice side, but we can experience the mercy and compassion side because what he did. It's just so amazing. When he dies on the cross, there's 3 hours of darkness. What's significant about the darkness? Well, one of the things that's significant about the darkness is at the very beginning of creation, Elohim created the heavens and the earth was formless and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. Chaos and darkness is associated with exile and death. It's before the light came into the world, before God saw anything good. So when Yeshua dies on the cross and there's darkness at that moment, he's literally descending to the point before the light was called into existence. When the world was in a state of chaos and void, he descended to that level to redeem you from the darkness, to redeem you from the chaos, so that you might experience new order, the light of salvation, and to become a new creation. I don't know about you, but that overwhelms me when I think about what God did for us and how every detail, even beginning in Genesis, connects all the way to the Messiah and to his cross. And then we talk about